it! I finally got it! Why does this universe hate me? We didn't know science. We just seemed to see the way things really worked, or should have worked, rather. We didn't have college degrees or any fancy paid-for knowledge. We couldn't explain the things with scientific terms or elaborate with mathematical formulas. We could just see it. We could see it dancing in the heavens before our very eyes like fantastic mysteries, celebrating the world around us. Then we acted on these mysteries. It was like music, really, but music to a musician who does not know music theory. The musician can't explain it, but he can feel it, and he can create what he feels. And then the musician will give it to the world, and the world can hear it, and they will say, "This is music." I remember Nick dragging himself out of bed. He looked in the mirror, and before I knew it, we were gone. We were bolting out that door. We realized that it was sometime past midnight. The air was heavy with dew, and it was dark as the grave. We were living in a small 2-bedroom house at that time with Nick's girlfriend, Cora. But we had only just recently moved into it. We knew the landlord quite well, so he occasionally let us use another house that he owned for our experiments. We could tell that he didn't believe that we would ever succeed, but he admired our enthusiasm. It was strange how we had never met the man in person, though. We had always communicated with him through some sort of agent. The man's name was, Chad. Okay, I figured it out this time. The key is not to time travel, but to travel to a different dimension entirely. It's two very similar, but very different things, I'd imagine. It's very easy to confuse them. One is traveling to a different time that existed at one point or will exist in the future, while the other is actually traveling to the current time in a different universe, world, or as we say, dimension. But it's still the current time, though, just a different realm. And that was it. That was the epiphany. And even though I felt like we had reached this conclusion thousands of times throughout our research over the past God knows how long, that night it clicked. We had read every single book that we could find on demonology, spirituality, everything from and about Nikola Tesla, everything about the universe. Millions and millions of words. So many words that it seemed sometimes we would lose track of what world we were actually in. Nick seemed to have everything figured out, while there were days that I could hardly even remember my name. Somehow, in the process of our reading, collection of materials, and the writing of letters to countless scientists, one or two of which were very well known, but most of which were completely unknown. Somehow, despite all this, we had come up with the electrical and mechanical proficiency to create a very strange contraption. It was a giant hoop, like a hula hoop made of steel or aluminum or whatever he said it was. And we had painted it red because why not? I think it was about 5 feet in diameter, but Nick was always the brains behind that. It was held up by some sort of engine that he said Tesla designed but had kept hidden for some reason, and he was always very protective and hesitant to talk about where exactly he acquired the design, because the blueprint he had was very detailed. Nick was smart, but he was no Tesla, so I know he didn't invent this thing by himself. And the frantic scribbles on the blueprint pages, though they looked like his in a way, they were not his. I just can't believe I haven't seen this before. Like, how did I not understand this? And all the money that I've spent that I didn't need to spend, the answer was here all along. We had probably spent thousands of dollars on this, but he never counted my money, my contribution, even though I spent the exact amount to the penny that he did. Sometimes I wonder if I was just there for his emotional support, like I was that part of his mind that continued to push him forward when he was at his weakest. Little did he know that I was always at my weakest when he was at his weakest. And he was at his weakest almost all the time. This night was the night, however. The night Nick woke us up to run through a forest so dense it could strain rice. This was the night that something in his dreams clued him in to exactly what the contraption was missing. That tiny piece that was not included in the blueprint, that relied completely on us to figure it out. I don't even know what it was now. It was something about the setting of the vibration to a very, very, very specific amount while channeling not only electricity, but also some atom splitting, whatever you want to call it. And it ultimately created a void. A void. That's exactly what it looked like. And I wish we had never entered it. When Nick fired up that machine, suddenly the hoop was no longer see-through. It was like staring into a mirror, and we looked into that mirror, and Nick saw himself looking back at us. He stuck his hand into the mirror, and it disappeared. Like he would have stuck it into the mud. I regret this night. I regret it so much. We all do. Cora appeared out of nowhere. We saw her through the window. The kitchen window, I believe it was. She smiled and waved when she saw us look up at her. And I remember thinking how odd it was that she was out in the woods this late at night. She was horrified of the dark. She was the type of girl who was barely even able to walk to the kitchen for a glass of water at night. How had she mustered the courage to travel all the way to the house through the woods that night? It seemed like she had just appeared there. Perhaps she wasn't even there at all. It was some sort of hallucination, but me and Nick both saw her. Was she there or not? Why was she there? How did she get there? And why did we leave her? These questions have haunted me for years. Regardless, we entered the void, and all sight of her and the world we were in vanished. In fact, all sight of anything I recognized whatsoever vanished. Nick was gone. Cora was gone. The device was gone. All of Nick's frantic scribbles, scattered tools and materials, the house, everything was gone. It was all gone. Everything was the most piercing white for a very dramatic moment. As if I had been hit with a flashbang grenade. And I could not hear, I could not see. There was literally nothing. I thought to myself, this is the end. I am convinced.